The movie begins in the 1960s in the Midwest of the United States, where the first biker clubs started to form. Benny is one of those bikers, an outsider who keeps to himself. He loves cheap bars and drinking, but what he cares about most is his motorcycle, which he calls bike, along with his club patch from a group known as the Andalas, in Chicago. One night at a bar, two men get angry when they see Benny wearing his club jacket and demand that he take it off. He refuses without hesitation. The two drunk guys decide to teach him a lesson and attack him, but Benny, who doesn't know the meaning of surrender, fights back fiercely. He stabs one of them in the face, while the other hits him hard on the head with a hammer. Kathy, on the other hand, is a naive young woman who is raised well and doesn't usually associate with bad people. One day in 1964, her friend invites her to visit a biker club. Kathy is shocked by what she sees inside: drunk men everywhere, some barely dressed. She tries to avoid the stares coming at her from every direction, feeling embarrassed. She borrows money from her friend so she can leave quickly. Suddenly, she notices Benny, who seems different from the rest of the crowd, and she falls for him at first sight. When he comes and sits next to her, she can't hide her admiration, even though she initially turns him down because she already has a boyfriend. Later, she meets Benny's biker crew, who reassure her that she's safe with them and that, despite their rough appearance, they don't hurt anyone. Kathy starts to feel uncomfortable and wants to leave as soon as possible. On her way out, some drunk men try to grope her. She plans to wait for the bus but gets scared by the number of men outside, feeling like the night might end badly. Benny notices her situation and gives her a ride on his motorcycle. Soon after, the rest of his biker friends catch up, and Kathy finally feels safe. She realizes that the biker club is really just a simple place where misfits gather, people who need to find others like them and feel free. Benny drops her off at home that night, which doesn't sit well with her boyfriend. Instead of leaving, Benny stays nearby until morning, which leads to a fight between Kathy and her boyfriend and ultimately ends their relationship. Benny decides to get closer to Kathy and asks her out. From there, their love begins to grow, and they end up getting married just a month later. Despite the major changes in his personal life, Benny remains the same rebellious biker at heart, constantly getting into trouble with the police, speeding and ignoring traffic signals. Benny always thinks he can outrun the cops, but one time his gas runs out at the worst possible moment, and he gets arrested. He's later released on bail. Johnny is shocked by Benny's behavior within the biker scene but doesn't judge him, because he understands Benny's deep love for freedom. In the end, Johnny helps establish one of the first motorcycle clubs in America. Johnny himself is a respectable man with a wife and two daughters, a steady job, and a passion for motorcycle racing. He competes with his friends and dreams of achieving something big in the sport. Unfortunately, his close friend doesn't stand by him, which leads to the club splitting into two groups, one that continues racing, and another that chases freedom and a carefree life. At first, the Chicago Biker Club has about 12 members, including a somewhat odd mechanic, his loyal friend, and another guy who likes eating insects like cockroaches, along with several others. Over time, however, the members begin to change. What started as a group of people looking for a break from ordinary life turns into something more dangerous: people breaking the law and threatening the safety of the city. The first real troublemaker in the club is a large man named Jack, who challenges Johnny for leadership. Some members refuse to support Jack and stand by Johnny instead. Jack insists on forming a similar club in a nearby state with the same mindset. Eventually, Johnny and Jack settle their conflict in a brutal fight, which Johnny narrowly wins after breaking Jack's finger and biting his leg. After that fight, Johnny agrees to expand the biker club into multiple branches across different states, without realizing where that decision might lead. When people saw the biker gang riding confidently through the city streets, a lot of them started trying to imitate them. Among those were some regular thugs who began stealing parts from expensive cars, which turned the bikers into a source of fear for the public, and most residents started avoiding them. During one of their Sunday rides, a bold guy showed up and managed to approach them. He was a biker from another gang, and a fight broke out over a scratch on his motorcycle. He tried to settle it without violence, but Benny didn't like his attitude and decided to hit him. After a window got smashed, the bikers finally realized they had nothing in common except their shared love for motorcycles. The next step in turning the club into a criminal gang came after a fight between Benny and two drunk men at a cafe. They attacked him, and he defended himself with a knife, cutting one of them in the face. The other guy decided to get revenge and hit Benny on the head with an axe, badly injuring his leg. For the first time, Benny couldn't hold back his tears, terrified that he might lose his leg. He begged Kathy to help him so he wouldn't lose it and could ride again. When Johnny and the others found out, they immediately went to the cafe and demanded the names of the attackers. Without waiting for an answer, Johnny ordered that those men be beaten and have their limbs broken so they never walk again. He also set the cafe on fire, while the police and firefighters stood at a distance, too scared to step in. After surgery and getting out of the hospital, Benny stayed in a hotel because he couldn't climb the stairs to his home. Kathy stood by him, and later Johnny suggested they spend a weekend in another state. His wife didn't like that idea at all, since Benny was still in a cast and barely able to move. She talked to Johnny and asked him to kick her husband out of the club, but Johnny gave her a very realistic answer. At that point, a new generation of bikers was still breaking the law and getting more violent by the day. One local kid who dreamed of becoming a biker even tried to kill his parents, then left home and formed a group of delinquents who relied on violence. Kathy had to take Benny to meet his friends because he still dreamed of riding again and reconnecting with the club. During that meeting, they met Sonny, a strange biker from another state who came looking for a fight. But when he realized he was among decent people, he refused to fight and ended up joining the gang. Later, Johnny invited Benny for a private conversation and told him he planned to make him his successor, since he intended to step down as president of the club for good. By then, Johnny had already turned the biker club into a real criminal organization. Brucey, Johnny's right-hand man and the ideological backbone of the Chicago crew, got into a car accident when a careless driver crashed into a cafe, causing Brucey's motorcycle to slam into the car and killing him. The bikers wanted to give him an honorable funeral, but during the service, the victim's family spat in Johnny's face, blaming him for everything. That night, the bikers went to a bar to drink whiskey in memory of their friend. There, they found a group of delinquents waiting for them, led by a guy who wanted to join the gang. Johnny rejected him, seeing him as rude, untrustworthy, and someone who would sell anyone out for his own benefit. Feeling insulted, the guy attacked Johnny from behind, but he was quickly beaten until he passed out. A year later, the club had changed even more and became a full-on criminal gang. A lot of shady people joined, mostly thugs and small-time criminals. The gang became bolder in committing crimes, and many of their parties ended in violent fights. At one point, the guy who used to eat cockroaches said he wanted to leave the club and become a motorcycle cop. The new members didn't like that and beat him badly. Benny took him to the hospital but left his wife alone for a short time, which he later regretted, especially after some drunk bikers tried to attack her. Later, that same guy personally asked Johnny for permission to leave the gang. Johnny didn't respond at first, but at midnight he and Benny broke into the man's house, and Johnny shot him in the leg, basically giving him a way out of the gang. In the end, Benny got fed up with all the violence, and was deeply disturbed by how much the club had changed. He decided to leave on his own and traveled to an unknown place. Sonny, meanwhile, joined another gang in a different state and challenged Johnny for leadership. Johnny knew the fight would be with knives, so he didn't tell his wife or kids, but he left a message for Kathy, who was already worried about Benny. At midnight, Johnny went to the meeting spot, but instead of using knives, his opponent pulled out a gun and shot him, killing him. The rival gang wiped out Johnny's crew in revenge for their former leader. After that, their ruthless boss took over as the new leader, marking the end of Johnny's era. From then on, the bikers turned into hardcore criminals, controlling prostitution, drug trafficking, and illegal gambling, and killing anyone who stood in their way without hesitation. Only a few of the original members stayed. Most left the criminal life. One became a movie theater ticket seller, another worked in construction after an accident, The guy who used to eat cockroaches became a cop, and Zeke left town and started catching lobsters. When Benny found out what happened to Johnny and the brutal way he was killed, he immediately went back home. He found peace only in his wife's arms and no longer wanted to live in the same city. He and his wife moved to another state, where he became a mechanic and left the biker life behind for good. He became a happy family man, but you could still see the sadness in his eyes for the days he spent with the biker club. And that's the end of the movie. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.